Well, hello, Florida Southern Moccasins. And it is with a heavy heart that I must announce that this is the final lecture in our mini course here on esports digital marketing and consumer engagement. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and I'm not, that's absolutely the truth. You've taught me many things. I hope I've taught you as well. So we're going to wrap up by talking about the tournament structure. Because when you think about it, if we're talking about marketing and reaching out to consumers, then obviously accessing the leagues, the tournaments, and all that is going to be paramount on our thinking. We've been talking about influencers, we've been talking about streaming, we've been talking about Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and all that. But there is, in fact, the macro, which is where you may very well try to get the bigger bang for your buck. And that would be through the tournament structure and the leagues. So without further ado, let's go right into it. Share my screen here. Okay, so for this 7th lecture, what are we going to be doing here? Well, hopefully by the time it's over, you will be able to apprehend the investment history of traditional sporting organizations into esports. You will also understand and comprehend the move into esports franchising by game publishers and investors. All right, because that was a very dramatic move that occurred with franchising. Now, you'll be able to describe the current state of professional esports franchises, and you'll understand the hub city concept of esports. This is rather unique to esports and is made possible by the digitization of the sport itself. We'll identify some of the investors involved in the franchise industry, and to a degree understand the recruitment pipeline to these professional franchised esports teams. Because in fact, they have drafts just like traditional sporting teams. And we'll talk about the event venue, because the event venue is something that has been moving around because of the whole hub city dynamic. So specific topics: NBA 2K history and structure. We'll talk about the Overwatch League. We'll talk about the Valorant franchise innovation, which is really quite innovative. We'll talk about LOL franchising's Call of Duty, the enigma that is Electronic Arts and Madden Football, and the you could almost say the tragedy that is Electronic Arts and FIFA. So let's get started by talking about something we all think we know, but we could sure use a refresher. What does it mean to be franchised? In franchise leagues, a central coordinator, or in this particular case, a franchisor, which is the publisher, offers a select number of available spots. Those are team spots. Each spot in a league comes with a certain price tag. You could almost say, like when you go to buy a car, there's the manufacturer's suggested retail price. Well, there's a manufacturer's suggested retail price when it comes to a franchise. Now, after spending millions to buy into a franchise league, a franchisee will earn the perks of being a permanent member. What does this include? This includes no relegation, together while granting sponsorship and advertising support from the franchisor. In other words, your prominence never gets diluted there. Even as other teams come on the league, you remain under the specific contract by which you joined. And of course, by becoming a team within a league, you benefit from the advertising support from the franchisor. This might actually be better comprehended if we talk about food franchises. Like if you open a Subway franchise, you pay a set amount of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars up front. To become a Subway, you have to meet certain regulations about cleanliness and hours of operation and what have you. But in return for that, the Subway franchisor that does all the national advertising and all that is doing it for you. Now, in esports franchising, following a regular season of matchups, points, and you're going to find points are becoming ever more important. Points are tallied up to generate a bracket for a final postseason battle to determine the champion of a particular game. So you got to ask yourselves, well, what are the benefits of franchising in esports? Well, apart from benefiting organizations due to the removal of any potential relegation, hence allowing organizations to more easily develop a fan base, franchising also benefits the players directly competing in the league. Why? How? This is because all franchises, as a common rule, must offer all players at least a minimum salary. They must also offer all players work benefits, as well as a cut in the winnings as bound by the particular contract. So what this ends up with is a better lifestyle than having to rely on small tournament winnings every now and then, which is what an independent team has got to deal with. So new players will compete with one another to fight their way into the main franchise through lower divisions. This is really no different than Class A, AA, AAA baseball or college football trying to get drafted into the NFL. So you can see that this mirrors traditional sports in many ways, but is also quite unique. Okay, now we all know over the last decade, look, esports have moved from being niche gaming subculture to a global phenomenon. As a result, as these audiences expand, esports is getting lots of attention and recognition from investors. Okay, we're going to talk a lot about investors today. Now, these investors come from a wide range of different backgrounds, such as software companies and celebrities. However, if you want to, look at the 30,000 view, the big players, the individual companies, the institutions that are making esports possible, you can buy stock in them. They're all listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And this chart that I pulled up over here lets you know that right now Activision Blizzard, which has got a New York Stock Exchange ticker symbol of ATVI, has a current market cap of $63.1 billion. And what's it known for? Well, COD StarCraft. And you can go on down the list. So nothing prevents you as an individual from buying stock in these companies. And frankly, if there's stock in any of them, I would say buy in, it would be NVIDIA, because I think NVIDIA's got, there's no ceiling on what can happen. But you can see here that the big players in esports are also major corporations in the New York Stock Exchange. Okay, continuing. Now, if you are interested in investing in the growing esports market, you'll have a few different options to choose from. The first option is the one that I just addressed, individual stocks. Now, buying a stock means you'll have an ownership stake in the company you're investing in. This approach requires you to do more research and can be riskier than investing in funds because you won't be as diversified, but it also has the most potential for significant profits. For example, let's go back here. You see Activision Blizzard is what? Microsoft, which is valued at $2.48 trillion, wants to buy Activision Blizzard. That's part of an M&A initiative, a merger and acquisition, which is one of the reasons why when Microsoft's intention first came out, Activision Blizzard stock went up. Because if they acquire Activision Blizzard, they are going to pay X amount of dollars per share to take over that company. And the X amount of dollars per share is usually 30 to 40 or more % of what that stock had been selling at before the interest in acquiring it had become known. There's another way of investing. This is called dedicated funds. Buying mutual funds or ETFs that invest in companies that are involved in esports is another approach that comes with less risk than buying individual stocks. In doing so, you will basically hold a basket of companies. So the success of the fund is not tied to just one or two holdings, but you have to pay attention to the fund's fees, which will come out of your investment return. The best ETFs charge low fees, improving your overall returns. Now let's go over here. What is an ETF? An exchange-traded fund is a type of pooled investment security that operates much like a mutual fund. You're MBA students, I assume you know what a mutual fund is, right? Now, typically, exchange-traded funds will track a particular index, a sector, a commodity, or other assets. But unlike mutual funds, ETFs can be purchased or sold on a stock exchange the same way that a regular stock can. So it is possible for you to seek out an ETF that is focused on esports that is listed on the stock exchange. This is different than mutual funds, where basically the mutual fund is held by an investment company, and you basically are trusting them to do whatever, to make money for you. But you don't have the ability to just move in and out. Now, before investing in any security, you'll need to open a brokerage account, and you've got to deposit money to be used for the investing purpose. The best online brokers have numerous research offerings to help you select investments, and once you've made a decision, you can place your trade in just a few seconds. Okay? So here, we're talking about how do you get in on the action? How do you make money on this? By investing. This is one way of investing. Of course, there are more traditional ways of investing, and that has been through major corporations and companies investing in particular esports. The best one out there, in my estimation, as far as an esports league goes, is NBA 2K. Okay? What is it? It's an esports league, but is a joint venture between the NBA and Take-Two Interactive. It's got some history, all right? It was announced in 2017, and at that time it was revealed that only 17 of the 30 NBA teams would be engaged in it. Now, last year, the NBA 2K League instituted a point system. If you're into hockey or basketball, you're probably familiar with the point system. The NFL's got a convoluted point system, and Major League Baseball is not involved in it, which I think is fine. But anyway, explaining how the point system and NBA 2K works. In 2022, it shifted to a point system where NBA 2K League teams in 5v5 tournaments and NBA 2K League teams and amateur teams in the 3v3 tournaments, they all will accrue points that will be used to determine the participants and seeding in the NBA 2K League playoffs. Okay? Now, the early years, going back to 2017, what's fascinating is that the early investors in NBA 2K were primarily European soccer teams. Okay? These European soccer teams saw the potential. They saw how basketball, how NBA was becoming much more of a global sport. In fact, as far as American-born sports are concerned, it is safe to say that basketball has become the global American sport, much more so than Major League Baseball, although the World Baseball Classic is trying to get there. And, the NFL with its scant London and Germany games every now and then. But the soccer teams in Europe knew that NBA and NBA 2K was going to take off. Now, this year, there are 25 NBA 2K League teams. So we've gone up from 17 in 2017 to 25 in 2023. That means that a number of NBA teams that were sitting it out, wanting to see whether or not this was the real deal, have come on board. And this is a listing of all the NBA teams that have an esport version of them. This is an example, a graphic example of those teams that are involved. And you can check to see whether or not your team is there, but you'll notice the Orlando Magic is part of it. The Miami Heat is part of it. Pittsburgh doesn't have a basketball team, so we won't even go there. And do I see New York? I don't see. Where's Brooklyn? Do I see Brooklyn? Okay, case closed. All right. Now, keep in mind that in NBA 2K, you're not playing as the avatar or the esports version of a living, breathing NBA star, because that would skew the league tremendously. Instead, each character on the league's 5-member team is customized and controlled by its player. So one of the major responsibilities if you become part of an NBA 2K League team is to create your player. And that means the physiology, that means the capabilities and all that. It's really kind of neat. Now, I mentioned hub cities. Even though the NBA 2K teams reside in their host city, or at least supposed to, the games, when they are live, are played in a hub location. For many years, the NBA 2K studios in Manhattan was the hub city. Then last year, the NBA 2K moved to Las Vegas. This year, they're in Washington, D.C., in what's called District E. But I want to point something out. Take a look at this setup. Very, very cool, very, very high class, very, very high tech, right? Take a look at this, little bit more subdued. Look at the audience. Okay, the audience is not that large. Then when we look at DC, for goodness sakes, we've got folding chairs. Okay, we've got folding chairs. This is because, as I've said before, esports, in other words, esports based on traditional sports, have the lowest viewership of any esport around. So while it might breed familiarity and might be somewhat engaging and all that, and you'll have, understanding of it prima facie. Well, I play basketball, I can follow this. I play football, I can follow Madden. Basketball is a little different. Now, this is even more fascinating because the sports gaming experts analyzed Google searches and search terms related to the games, and guess what they found? NBA 2K has become the most searched game in 31 states over the last 12 months. And the title is most searched in Massachusetts, New York, and California. However, while people love playing the game, take a look at this. The NBA 2K League, its 2023 playoffs this year hit 46,000 peak viewers during the summit clash between Warriors Gaming Squad and NBL Oz Gaming. NBL Oz Gaming is the Australian game. It also hit 663,000 hours watched and 30,000 average viewers over an airtime of 22 hours. Those might seem like big numbers. They are not big numbers. Now, why is this important to you? Because you, as the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, have got to figure out where to invest your advertising dollars. To what degree would it have been worth it to invest in this NBA 2K championship this year? If there were only 46,000 peak viewers and 30,000 average viewers over an airtime of 22 hours. These are the figures that you're going to have to deal with, okay? However, the NBA 2K is fun. It's a really cool esport. And you can see here they have their own draft, and their draft is global. And it's one of the things I love about the NBA 2K League is, in fact, that they are looking for and recruiting players from Eastern Europe, from Australia, from Africa, from the Middle East, from Europe, North America, Asia, you name it. So the global appeal of basketball is manifest in the draft. Now let's take a look at the Overwatch League. This one should be a Harvard case study. Okay, this year marks the 6th season of the Overwatch League, which we call OWL. And as you can guess, it's the Professional Esports League for Overwatch 2, right? Overwatch 2. Now, this year, the teams are split between 2 regions, East and the West. The season commenced with a preseason Pro-Am tournament that was held in the West region, where Overwatch contenders teams competed against Overwatch League teams. Okay, we're trying to drum up more interest by basically getting the amateur Overwatch teams, what we call the contenders, competing against the franchise leagues. Now, in the East region, Overwatch contenders teams joined the regular season alongside the established Overwatch League teams. You know, this kind of reminds me here in Pittsburgh, the University of Pittsburgh football team, which is not very good, but their first game was against Wofford University, I guess. No one has ever heard of it. And it was basically a trouncing of Wofford. It was essentially preseason. And since then, Pitt has lost 3 straight games to real teams. So, you know, for Wofford, it meant a check. They came to Pittsburgh, they got beat up, but they got a check bigger than they would get for the rest of their season. But going back to Overwatch, the regular season is divided into 2 stages, spring and summer, in the same way that minor league baseball is divided into first half of the season, second half of the season. The spring stage began on April 27th and concluded with the midseason madness. Now, an interregional midseason tournament was hosted in Seoul, South Korea. This is what OWL is aspiring to. See the dynamism that was there. Remember, this was OWL 2019. This was in Anaheim. I mean, the bloom was still on the rose. However, things have changed. Now, this year, the 4 semifinalists will play for a spot in the 2023 Overwatch League Grand Finals, taking place October 1st, live from the Mattamy Athletic Center in Toronto, Canada. So you can see how the Toronto Defiant, the Overwatch team in Toronto, is hosting the semifinal, basically hosting the Overwatch Grand Finals, and it's being held in Toronto. Now, Activision Blizzard and Overwatch has really become a case study for a number of reasons. And it's worth going into since you are all MBAs, okay? First, in 2020, Activision Blizzard signed a 3-year broadcasting rights deal with YouTube, in which it made YouTube the exclusive broadcasting partner for the Overwatch League. The Overwatch League season continues to be exclusively broadcast on YouTube, even though the previous broadcast exclusivity rights deal between them has expired. Because of that, because of choosing YouTube as the exclusive streamer, a lot of fans are up in arms, expressing disappointment that OWL's exclusive availability on YouTube means they cannot watch it on Twitch. You've really got to question whether or not Activision Blizzard should have stuck to this, even though the contract for exclusivity has expired. How volatile is the Overwatch League? Well, let's take a look at this. Several teams changed branding and regions for 2023, and I mean big time. The Paris Eternal relocated to Las Vegas and rebranded as the Vegas Eternal. That made them the first of the league's teams to switch cities. But if you want to switch, check out the Philadelphia Fusion. It shifted its base to Seoul and rebranded as Seoul Infernal. Now, the Los Angeles Valiant returned to the West region after competing in China, while the Dallas Fuel moved from the West to the East region, and furthermore, the Chengdu Hunters disbanded. Now, you can see here, you don't have to be a genius to realize that this means upheaval and internal strife within the Overwatch League. Overwatch League teams initiated a collective bargaining process, seeking financial assistance to address operating costs and viewership challenges. The teams enlisted the representation of the British law firm Sheridan's to negotiate with Activision Blizzard. As a result, this collective bargaining process led to the agreement between Overactive Media, which was the owner of the Toronto Defiant, and the Overwatch League. Now, as part of the deal, the Toronto Defiant signed a sponsorship agreement with the league, and the Overwatch League agreed to waive the outstanding franchise fees owed by all of the teams. Read that last sentence again. Overwatch League agreed to waive the outstanding franchise fees owed by all of the teams. In other words, this investment, which began at $20 million, was not generating ROI. Give Activision Blizzard some credit for negotiating this deal that basically said, we feel your pain, and as a result, we are going to waive any outstanding fees that are owed by all the teams. That means revenue generated can be used for operating expenses and not to pay off Activision Blizzard. Okay? Give you an example of the 2023 season calendar. It's not just a calendar, it gives you an inkling and insight into how esports tournament seasons are set up. It's not just play to playoffs. There are, notice here, the Pro-Am League, which we talked about. Notice there's the spring stage. Notice there is a variety of spring stages, then leading to the mid-season madness. We've got the summer stage, the playoffs. There's many more opportunities for important, meaningful competition throughout the season. It is not simply about wins and losses. Now, let's take a look at Valorant, because one of the things we're going to notice here is that there basically is a decentralization going on in terms of tournaments and leagues. In 2023, we saw the introduction of 3 new Valorant international leagues, each containing 10 partnered teams, which will represent the premier level of competition in VCT. This starts to resemble European soccer. Now, earlier this year, there commenced a selection process to choose the partners for each of the league. So 30 teams were identified as the right partners to build the next era of the sport and deliver amazing experiences, right? The process was incredibly competitive, humbled by the interest and the overwhelming number of applications received. The selection spanned months. It included a written application. This is like applying to grad school, in-depth interviews, and financial reviews. So over here, you can see the pyramid for Valorant esports in 2023. We start with a deep connection to the in-game competitive experiences, opportunities for any player to qualify for pro play via a new in-game competitive mode. Then we have an expanded domestic and game changers league, expansion of the current challengers and game changer systems to cover more players in more countries and regions, leading to the new premier level international leagues that we talked about over here. These 3 new leagues, where the best teams from around the world compete in studio to be crowned champions of their league and to qualify for global events. And finally, the global events that raise the bar, the unforgettable global events that combine spectacle with top-tier competition to create lifelong memories. Take a look at the spread of these leagues. So the Americas is comprised of North America, the US and Canada, Latin America North, Brazil, and Latin America South. So these 10 teams, their 10 teams in the Americas come from there. Then you have the Europe and Middle East here, which is Northern Europe, Southern Europe, Spain, Italy, and Portugal, France and the Benelux countries, Benelux being Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, the Dutch, Germany, Austria, Switzerland. Then you have Turkey, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East, the northern part of the Middle East. And then we have the Pacific. That's the South Asia, including India, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Korea, Japan, Chinese Taipei and Hong Kong, the Philippines, Indonesia, and Oceania, which really means Australia and New Zealand. So these are the 3 premier leagues for Valorant. Okay. Here you have them. You'll notice very familiar names. So among these competing teams to try to become in the Premier League were, in fact, some of the most popular esports teams or corporations that we are familiar with. But it also includes some newbies, okay? And many of the newbies, are really from Europe and the Middle East and the Pacific. But I love the way they did this. And they really gave an opportunity for newbies, new teams, to have a chance to make it to the Premier. And you can bet your bottom dollar that if some of these teams do poorly, they will drop a level and other teams may advance, just like in European and British soccer. Here is the schedule for the Valorant. You've got an international kickoff tournament, the International League split, the Masters, the Last Chance qualifiers, and the Champions of 2023. This is for the international. These are for the challengers. And you can see here that it's very well comprised, very well thought out. Now, let's delve more deeply. In 2023, the Challenger Leagues will feature 2 splits of regular season play that will culminate in a playoff, where a single team will be crowned as that league's champion. The biggest Challenger Leagues will receive dedicated broadcast windows that will be scheduled to avoid conflicts with international league matches. I think the best that we can equate this with traditional sports is the way Major League Baseball is shining much more of a spotlight on AAA baseball. I mean, I'm now able to watch basically any AAA team possible. And also with the new contract that was generated, the AAA baseball teams have basically the exact same schedule as the Major League. In fact, so does the AA. So that it is much more recognized as just one step below, but being held to the same standards. Now, Riot recently announced that Shanghai will host the second international event of the 2024 Valorant Champions Tour. So VCT Masters Shanghai will take place in late spring of 24, according to Riot Games. So, here you can see those teams that qualified for the championship. All right. I love the way they're doing it. I mean, very smart. Now let's go to Call of Duty, which has a female commissioner, which I keep harping on and keep coming back to because, ladies, why can't you become the commissioner? Okay. So Call of Duty has got the championship weekend. And you'll notice that for the 2023 season, there's Major 1, Major 2, Major 3, Major 4, Major 5, and ultimately the championship weekend. And so once again, they take advantage of having multiple major tournaments throughout the season. The Call of Duty League is a professional esports league that was launched by Activision, the franchisor. And it follows a model similar to the Overwatch League as well as traditional US sporting leagues, in that there are permanent city-based teams that are backed by separate team owners. There is no relegation system, meaning that all teams compete in a tournament point system, which leads up to a playoff format. Call of Duty League is on the rise. In 2021, it broke its all-time viewership record in May with concurrent viewership of 330,000 viewers and an average audience of 206,000 viewers. It had a total prize pool of $5 million US. Again, you're the chief marketing officer. I think I want to take a look at the Call of Duty League. Okay. I already said that. Okay. The important thing here is that the players there receive a $50,000 salary with health and other benefits, even though players may negotiate for higher salaries. The cool thing is that at least 50% of the winnings a team earns must be shared with the team members. And furthermore, players are not required to live in the city region that the team represents. So, even though it's a city-based team that is backed by separate ownership groups that want to identify with the city, the fact of the matter is the player is not required to live in that city. It kind of reminds me of the Pittsburgh Knights here in Pittsburgh, where hardly any of the team members live in Pittsburgh. Now, what do we mean by point system? Again, the CDL point system means that you can get a maximum of 200 points if you win all your league matches, and 260 points if you win every single major. So we're looking at the cap there. However, it is much harder to win every single major compared to winning every single league match and the scoring, so that here's the breakdown. For a major points breakdown, if you finish first in one, you get 65 points. If you finish second, you get 50 points. Third is 40, fourth is 40, 30, on the way down. And in the Pro-Am Classic points breakdown, first place is 25 points, and second through sixth, you don't get anything. Sort of like horse racing. Now, here's the Call of Duty League. You'll notice, Atlanta FaZe, the Huntsmen, the Dallas Empire, Florida Mutineers, London Royal Ravens, Los Angeles Guerrillas, the Toronto Ultra, the Paris Legion, Optic Gaming LA, New York Subliners, Minnesota Rockers, and my eyesight ruins on the search. Okay. Now, let's delve deeper into the Call of Duty League. In the 2023 Call of Duty season, it began with matches being streamed solely on Twitch, okay? With the addition of YouTube being brought into the mix later on in the season to maximize overall viewership. One of the things they did, which was very, very clever, okay, was watch parties on Twitch that were hosted by major influencers like Scump and Zuma, which brought a whole new element to watching the CDL. If you're not familiar with Scump and Zuma, Scump was widely considered to be one of the greatest COD players of all time. Now, he runs a YouTube channel of over 2.6 million subscribers and 590 million channel views, whereas Zuma Paparato is a retired American player who's currently a streamer for FaZe Clan. Okay, so you can see here that it's the Seattle Surge, Don. Was that it? Was that the one I couldn't read? Yeah, the Seattle Surge. All right. So you can see here how in marketing, you may very well market or brand your thing on Scump and Zuma because of their following rather than opting just for CDL in and of itself. Okay. Here is a breakdown of how the Call of Duty major worked out. So you can see here the round robin tournament that was set up and how it came to a championship where the Atlanta FaZe beat the Los Angeles Thieves 4-2. Okay. Now, the 2023 Call of Duty season began on December 2nd of 2022. And those teams competed in 5 majors throughout the season, culminating in the Call of Duty Championship Tournament in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the Thomas Mack Center. The Thomas Mack Center is the big convocation center at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I gave keynote speeches there in 2000 and all that. I know Las Vegas well. But the 5 majors were played in Raleigh, Boston, Arlington, Columbus, and Toronto. Again, very well done. And the sponsors included PS4, Mountain Dew, Astro Gaming, the Air Force, the Army, Sony, and Twitter. Okay. And the Call of Duty League is doing it right in terms of skins and team packs that are now available to the casual player. Okay. Now let's look at League of Legends, because in the same way that Valorant is essentially a kind of a decentralized league, League of Legends is really a decentralized league. Now, keep in mind, Riot is a subsidiary of Tencent. Regardless, Riot operates 14 international LOL leagues, esports leagues, including the League of Legends World Championship and the Valorant Championship Tour. Now, as of 2023, there are 9 professional leagues for League of Legends. For the mid-season invitational with 13 spots, LEC, LPL, LCS, and LCK are allotted 2 spots each. The remaining 5 legions are allocated 1 spot each. Now, for the World Championship, there are 22 spots, and you can see the breakdown of those various international leagues, how they are allotted spots to compete for the World Championship. Now, official League of Legends tournaments are held in 12 regions. The main ones are South Korea, China, Europe, and North America. And the best teams of the spring split from these regions, from the spring split, play in the mid-season invitational. So when you talk about scheduling, when you talk about maximizing viewership, nobody does it like League of Legends. So this year's LOL Worlds begins on October 10th, and it concludes on November 19th. So if you're listening to this at the right time, tune in, okay? And this is the tournament's tradition of taking place at the end of the year's League of Legends esports season. The kickoff proceedings, the play-in stage, takes place October 10 through 15, and following that is the Swiss stage of the tournament, which is split between 2 stretches, as you can see those dates. These head into the November knockout stages from quarterfinals November 2nd through the 5th, semifinals November 11th, 12th, with the final set for November 19th. And the location is going to be Korea, which makes all the sense in the world, in the following locations. The play-in stage will take place at the League of Legends Park in Seoul. The Swiss stage will take place at the KBS Arena, also in Seoul. The quarterfinals will take place at the Sajik Indoor Gymnasium in Busan on the East Coast. The semifinals, again at the Sajik Indoor Gymnasium at Busan. The final will occur at the Gocheok Sky Dome in Seoul. So the final will take place in the Sky Dome Stadium with a capacity of up to 25,000 spectators for the live events. I can tell you right now, it's going to be sold out. It's going to be a big deal. You want to watch it, okay? Now, this is a record of teams that have won the League of Legends World Championship. And it shouldn't surprise you that South Korea is going to be hosting the LOL World Championship, because take a look, they have won the most world championships, followed by China. So when it comes to LOL Worlds, it is an Asian dominance, right? Asian dominance. Okay, and this is DRX that won the LOL World Championship last year. Okay. Now, each region's qualifying methods differ slightly, but the main ways to qualify for LOL Worlds are to win the summer split or to have accrued the most points across both spring and summer splits. 2023 will also introduce the World's Qualifying Series, which pits the 4th seed teams from the LEC and LCS against one another for the 22nd and final spot at Worlds. I think this is freaking brilliant. So here's the seeding for Worlds of this year in the play-in stage. Vietnam, top 2 teams. Southeast Asia, top 2 teams. Japan, 1 team. Brazil, 1 team. Latin America, 1 team. And the winner of the World Qualifying Series, 1 team. In the Swiss stage, Korea gets top 4 teams, China top 4 teams, Europe top 3 teams, North America top 3 teams. This is brilliantly done, but you can see the complexity, okay? And so this makes you ask yourself, is this something that I would want to be involved in? Do I have the wherewithal to be involved in this? I mean, this is total commitment. Now we'll take a look at two examples of I don't get it. Madden 23, okay? You will notice Madden 23 uses the word tournament. Well, what does it mean by that? Okay. Well, the Madden Championship Series is a series of esports tournaments that take place throughout the year, and they culminate in the Madden Bowl, which occurs next to the Super Bowl, right? What Madden has done this year is feature more tournaments with more chances for a live local area network experience. Now, it started in August with the Ultimate Kickoff Tournament and will end with a land final on September 6th, the day before the NFL kickoff game. It did. And the tournament had a $200,000 prize pool, which is not a heck of a lot of money. Now, the kickoff will be followed by a series of 4 Ultimate Challenge tournaments, which will all have LAN finals. Players will play through a ladder stage, right, working your way up the ladder, to be followed by a single elimination bracket and the LAN finals. The live events for the Ultimate Challenge tournaments will take place in October, November, December, and January. Fortunately, the Ultimate Madden Bowl, which is going to take place in early 2024, around the time of the Super Bowl, is up now to a $1 million tournament. Of course, Electronic Arts has not shared further details about the Madden Bowl, but more information is expected as the tournament draws close. Okay? This is an example of how you put your team together with Madden 23. And again, you are using real players. All right? And you will notice the NFL Players Association is all in on this. Okay? So you're putting together your team, you're selecting your team and all that. FIFA is another example of, I don't know what they're doing. The FIFA eWorld Cup, formerly the FIFA Interactive World Cup and the FIFA eWorld Cup, is the esports tournament held by FIFA and formerly by its presenting partner, which was EA Sports. What are they doing? Because this is the last year that EA and FIFA are together. Each tournament has players competing in games of the latest incarnation of the FIFA Association football video game. Players and team managers must complete their sign-ins on FIFA.gg. If there is a competition in which a player is eligible for, this will show in the competition section where they can register. The process of signing up your club must be completed by a team manager. So you are a team manager. You've put your club together. You are now throwing your name in the hat to see if you're going to be where you're going to be placed in a competition. This is almost like Sandlot, but you can see where this is essentially a divestment. I mean, this is the divorce settlement between EA and FIFA. Okay, so this was a pretty quick overview of the tournament structure in esports, both professionally and amateurly, you could say, or avocationally. It's important because if you are in fact a digital, esports digital marketing director, you've got to figure out where to put your monies. And this gave you an example of the things that you need to consider when it comes to the leagues, the tournaments, and the broadcasting. Well, look, this was the last lecture. I have noticed that the viewership for my lectures has gone down. But for those few of you who are watching, I want to personally thank you for being part of this class. The work has been stellar. You've engaged. The discussions, I don't know what happened to the discussions, but you have taught me, okay? I hope that I have taught you something in return. So thank you very much. Have a great, turn in a great final, and have a great time at Florida Southern. Get your degree and go out there and have a terrific life and a meaningful life and be happy. Okay? Peace.